Lieutenant Jiwoo Park stared at the view screen as alarms screamed through the bridge. The mining colony below was burning. She counted 7 Vrask warships circling the station like predators around wounded prey. 3,000 civilians were trapped inside. "They are executing the miners," Communications Officer Taeyang said, his voice shaking. "1 every 10 minutes until we leave their territory." Captain Velthara, the insectoid Quiller commander, clicked her mandibles nervously. "We are outgunned. 3 ships against 7. We must wait for reinforcements." Gyu-woo watched another explosion blossom on the colony's southern wing. The Vrask were methodical, cruel. They wanted the coalition to watch and do nothing. They wanted to prove that humans and their allies were weak. "There's a pattern to their shield rotation," Jiwoo said quietly. Commander Hyun-ki Lee turned to her. "Explain." She pulled up the tactical display, her fingers flying across the controls. "The Vrask ships share a linked shield network. It makes them stronger together, but look here. Every 47 seconds, there's a 0.3-second gap when they rotate primary coverage. The mining station has 12 ore refineries. If we overload them and time the detonation correctly, we can create a focused electromagnetic pulse." Velthara's compound eyes widened. "That would destroy the station. The southern wing is already lost," Jiwoo said. "But we can evacuate the northern sections. The pulse will drop their shields for maybe 8 seconds. Enough time for our torpedoes to hit." "Too risky," Velthara said. "Too many variables." Another civilian died. Jiwoo could hear the Vrask commander's laughter over the open channel. He was enjoying this. Hyun-ki studied the tactical display. He had seen war before humans joined the coalition. He had watched good people die while others debated safe choices. He looked at Jiwoo and saw something the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. A human who still remembered how to fight when fighting was the only option left. "Do it," he said. Jiwoo's hands moved like lightning. She coordinated with the station's automated systems, overriding safety protocols. Taeyang worked beside her, opening evacuation routes and sealing bulkheads. They had 12 minutes before the refineries reached critical mass. "All northern section civilians are moving to the emergency shuttles," Taeyang reported. The Vrask hadn't noticed the unusual energy readings yet. They were too busy enjoying their dominance. Jiwoo counted down the seconds. The refineries were screaming now, their containment fields barely holding. "Shields at maximum," Velthara ordered. "All ships, prepare for impact." Jiwoo watched the Vrask shield rotation pattern. 47 seconds, like clockwork. She waited for the gap, her finger hovering over the detonation command. Years of academy training compressed into a single moment. Her instructors had taught her tactics and strategy, but they hadn't taught her this. This was something older. Something humans had learned in darker times. The shield gap appeared. She pressed the button. 12 refineries exploded simultaneously. The electromagnetic pulse tore through space like an invisible hammer. The Vrask shield network flickered, collapsed, and died. For 8 perfect seconds, they were naked before the Storm. Coalition torpedoes crossed the distance at relativistic speeds. The first Vrask ship simply vanished in a ball of fire. The second lost its main drive and began spinning. The third, fourth, and fifth tried to maneuver but couldn't reinitialize their shields in time. When the light faded, only 2 Vrask ships remained. They jumped to faster-than-light speed. Without even retrieving their escape pods, the mining colony's northern sections survived. 2,800 civilians made it to the shuttles. Jiwoo had saved them, but she had also killed over 3,000 Vrask warriors. She sat back in her chair, her hands shaking. Hyun-ki placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did well." "I killed them," she whispered. "You saved our people. That's what matters." On the main view screen, the rescued miners were cheering. They didn't know her name yet. They didn't know that the Vrask fleet commander had recorded her face before he died. They didn't know that her tactical signature was already being analyzed by enemy intelligence. Velthara approached Guwu's station. The Quiller captain had doubted her, had called her plan reckless. But now she looked at the young human officer with something new in her compound eyes. "Lieutenant Park," Velthara said formally, "I was wrong. Your species brings something we have forgotten. The willingness to take terrible risks for those who cannot fight. Wu didn't feel proud, she felt empty. War wasn't glorious like the story said. It was math and death and choices no one should have to make. But as she watched the rescue shuttles dock with their ship, as she saw families reunited and children pulled from the edge of death, she understood something. Her instructors were right about tactics and wrong about war. War wasn't about honor or glory. It was about making sure the people you cared about could see tomorrow. 3 days later, Hyanki called her to his office. The Vrask have identified you, he said, showing her an intelligence report. They're calling you Ghost 13 after our ship designation. You're on their priority target list now. Zhiwu felt cold. Sir? It means you hurt them, Lieutenant. It means they're afraid of what one human with a good idea can do. He smiled grimly. Welcome to war, Zhiwu, the real war, where the enemy knows your name and wants you dead. She thought about the burning colony, the civilian who died every 10 minutes. The Vrask commander's laughter. Something hardened inside her chest. Let them come, she said quietly. Hyanki studied her face. He saw the rookie officer disappearing, replaced by something sharper. Something the galaxy would soon learn to fear. They will, he promised. And when they do, we'll be ready. Jiwoo returned to her quarters that night. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those 12 refineries exploding, saw the Vrask ships burning, saw the faces of the miners she'd saved and the warriors she'd killed. Earth had been at peace for 2 centuries. Humans had almost forgotten what their ancestors knew. That survival sometimes demanded terrible choices. That mercy toward enemies could mean death for friends. That the only thing worse than fighting was watching good people die because you were too afraid to act. G-Wu. Park had learned that lesson. The galaxy would learn it too, one battle at a time. One impossible victory at a time. The rookie's first fight was over. But Ghost 13's war had just begun. 6 months after the mining colony, Jiwoo stood in front of 40 coalition officers and explained how she had destroyed a Vrask supply depot using only 2 fighters and a cargo hauler full of frozen meat. The Vrask rely on thermal imaging and asteroid fields, she said, pointing at the tactical display. Frozen cargo registers as background noise. We hid inside the shipment, coasted past their sensors, and detonated the warheads before they knew we were there. A Nexian diplomat raised his scaled hand. This is deception. We do not fight with lies. No, Jiwoo said calmly. You fight with honor and lose colonies. I fight to win and save lives. Pick one. The room went silent. Commander Heinke hid a smile. His student was learning. The Vrask were learning too. After the mining colony, Jiwoo had been involved in 4 more operations. Each one successful. Each one unpredictable. The enemy was starting to see a pattern, but the pattern was chaos itself. Humans didn't fight like the other species. They changed tactics constantly, used their environment as a weapon, and treated war like a puzzle to be solved rather than a ritual to be honored. The Vrask High Command had given her a new name, Ghost 13. The number haunted their battle reports like a curse. Wherever Ghost 13 appeared, Vrask forces suffered impossible defeats. Jiwoo was promoted to commander and given her own tactical unit. She chose her team carefully. Corporal Biora Choi, demolitions expert who could make a bomb from spare parts and attitude. Lieutenant Sung-Ho Kong, a pilot so skilled he could fly through a debris field blindfolded. Sergeant Yuna Han, an intelligence officer who could read enemy patterns like poetry. Together, they became the coalition's most effective strike team. They were also its most controversial. You're making enemies, Hyanki warned her one evening over tea. They sat in the observation deck, watching stars slide past the viewport. Not just the Vrask, some coalition species think you're too aggressive. Am I? Wu asked. You're too effective. That scares people who are comfortable with predictable losses. Jiwoo sipped her tea. It was earth-grown, a rare luxury in space. I can't fight a war worrying about politics. You'll have to eventually. Commanders who ignore politics become martyrs, he paused. The Vrask are planning something big. Our intelligence suggests they're targeting you specifically. Let them, Jiwoo. Hyanki's voice was sharp. Confidence is good. Arrogance gets people killed. She met his eyes. I'm not arrogant, sir. I'm just done watching them burn our colonies. The trap came 3 weeks later in the Kepler Nebula. A distress signal from a science vessel attacked by pirates. Standard rescue operation. Jiwoo's team jumped to the coordinates and immediately knew something was wrong. Too quiet, Seung-ho said from the pilot seat. No debris. No radiation signatures? Yuna checked her sensors. It's a trap. Multiple Vrask signatures hiding in the nebula gases. Estimated 15 ships. Bo-Ra armed her weapons console. We're outnumbered 5-1. Thoughts? Jiwoo smiled. They think we're predictable now. They've studied our tactics, found our patterns. They expect us to either fight or run, so what do? Seung-ho asked. Neither. Jiwoo pulled up a communications log that Yuna had been tracking for weeks. I've been feeding false intelligence through a compromised data node. The Vrask think they're reading our private communications. They think we believe this is a real distress call. But what they don't know is that I know they know. So we prepared for this. Tae-young, monitoring from the main fleet, spoke through the comms. What did you do? Remember that automated mining drone network we repositioned last month? The one everyone thought was for asteroid surveillance? Hanki's voice cut in, and he was laughing. You didn't? I did. Jiwoo activated a command sequence. Those drones have been slowly surrounding the Kepler Nebula for weeks. They're loaded with plasma charges designed to ignite nebula gases. The Vrask are hiding in a fuel cloud and don't even know it. The Vrask fleet revealed itself, thinking they had Jiwoo trapped. 15 warships emerged from the colorful gases of the nebula, weapons hot, shields maximum. Their commander broadcast a message in broken coalition standard. Gosutain, we know you. We studied you. You are trapped. No, Jiwoo replied calmly. You are. She triggered the drones. 300 automated mining units detonated simultaneously throughout the nebula. The gases ignited in a chain reaction that turned the entire cloud into a furnace. Vrask shields, designed for weapons fire, couldn't handle the sustained thermal assault. Ships overheated. Systems failed. Warriors cooked inside their own vessels. Jiwoo's team, positioned at the edge of the nebula with thermal shielding already active, watched the light show. 12 ships destroyed, Yuna reported. 3 damaged and trying to escape. Disable them, Wu ordered. I want prisoners. They captured 2 ships, including the command vessel. Inside was Warduke Calthar, one of the Vrask Empire's most decorated military leaders. He had expected to capture Ghost 13 and present her head to the High Command. Instead, he was in chains. Wu visited him in the brig. Calthar was massive, covered in green-black scales, with eyes like yellow fire. He radiated hatred. Kill me, he demanded. Give me a warrior's death. No, Wu said. She pulled up a chair and sat down, studying him like a specimen. I'm going to do something worse. I'm going to understand you. For weeks, she interviewed Calthar. Learned Vrask psychology, their honor codes, their military doctrine. He answered her questions because he thought she was trying to find weakness. What he didn't realize was that Jiwoo was learning how they thought. And once she understood that, she could predict them. The Vrask High Command was furious. Losing 15 ships was bad. Losing Warduke Calthar was humiliation. They declared a blood mark on Jiwoo, a cultural decree that meant every Vrask warrior was honor-bound to kill her or die trying. You've become more than an enemy, Hyanki told her. You're a symbol now. They can't let you live because you represent everything they fear. What do I represent? Jiwoo asked. That war isn't about honor. It's about winning. And they're losing to a species they thought was weak. Wu looked at the stars outside her window. Somewhere out there, the Vrask were gathering their best warriors. They would come for her. They would try to kill her. They would fail, because Jiwoo Park wasn't just a tactical officer anymore. She was becoming something the galaxy hadn't seen in a long time. A human who remembered what her ancestors knew. that survival meant adaptation, that honor was worthless if everyone you loved was dead, that the best way to win a war was to be the thing your enemy couldn't predict, couldn't counter, and couldn't understand. The pattern was clear now. Every victory made her more dangerous. Every defeat the Vraska suffered made them more desperate. This would end only one way, with fire and blood, and a name that would echo through the stars. The Galactic Coalition War Council met on Concordia, a planet where 1,000 species had signed peace treaties for 3 centuries. Today, they would decide if one human officer had gone too far. Jiwoo stood in the center of the vast chamber. Above her, representatives from 50 species watched from floating platforms. Some looked at her with respect, others with fear, a few with open disgust. Commander Park, the Ithari delegate, began. His species was ancient, philosophical, covered in flowing silver robes. You have violated the Concordia Accord 17 times. Your tactics are considered war crimes by our standards. Which standards? Jiwoo asked calmly. The ones written by species who haven't faced extinction in 1,000 years? Gasps echoed through the chamber. You didn't talk back to the Ithari. They were the moral compass of the coalition, the Nexian ambassador hissed from his platform. You set fire to an entire nebula. Thousands died. Thousands of warriors who were trying to kill me, Jiwoo corrected, and who had burned 6 of our colonies the month before. Should I have let them win to preserve your sense of honor? Honor matters, the Ithari said. Without it, we are no better than animals. Honor is a luxury, Jiwoo replied. Ask the civilians on the colonies you abandoned because fighting dirty might upset your principles. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Hyeon-ki, standing beside her, whispered, You're not helping yourself. I'm not here to make friends, she whispered back. I'm here to win wars. Admiral Sektar, the Quiller fleet commander, rose from his platform. His species had fought the Vrask for 50 years and lost more battles than they won. Commander Park's methods are brutal, yes, but they work. Her unit has a 94% success rate. The next best coalition team has 61%. Because she treats war like butchery, the Ithari said. No, a new voice interrupted. Because she treats war like war. Everyone turned. War Duke Calther, still in coalition custody, had requested to speak. The guards brought him to a secured platform. His scales were dull from captivity, but his eyes still burned with fury. You want to know why we fear her? Calther asked the council. Because she doesn't fight like you do. The Ithari fight with philosophy. The Nexians fight with diplomacy. The Quiller fight with tradition. You all fight the way you've always fought, and we know how to beat you. He pointed at Jiwoo. She fights to survive. Every battle is different. Every tactic is new. We cannot predict her. We cannot prepare for her. She is like trying to catch sunlight with your hands. You grasp and there is only pain. The chamber was silent, Calther continued. My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We understand honor, strategy, courage. But this human showed us something we forgot. War is not a game. It is not theater. It is life and death. And humans remember that. You praise your enemy? The Ithari asked, confused. I explain why my people are losing to yours. Calther looked at Jiwoo with something that might have been respect. We call her Heital in our language. Your translation would be Sunblade. It is the name we give to things that cannot be held, that burn whoever approaches, that reveal everything hidden in darkness. Jiwoo felt the weight of the name settle on her shoulders. Sunblade, Admiral Sektar repeated slowly. It fits. The Ithari delegate shook his head. This is wrong. We should not celebrate brutality. Then what should we celebrate? Jiwoo asked. The colonies that burn while you debate? The civilians who die while you pursue honor? I've saved 14,000 lives in 8 months. How many have your principals saved? She walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the assembled species. You joined the coalition because you believed in peace. So did humans. But the Vrask don't care about peace. They care about conquest. And while you argue about the proper way to fight, they're killing people who trusted you to protect them. So we should abandon all morality? The Athari challenged. No, Ru said. We should remember why morality matters. Not because it makes us feel good. Because it protects people who can't protect themselves. And sometimes protecting them means doing things that aren't clean or honorable or pretty. It means being willing to carry the weight of hard choices so others don't have to. Hyenki stepped forward. The council should know that Commander Park carries every death with her. I've seen her after battles. She doesn't celebrate. She mourns. Even her enemies. But she doesn't let that stop her from doing what needs to be done. Because if I stop, Zhiwu said quietly, people die. Good people. People with families and dreams and futures. The Vrask don't ask those people if they want to fight honorably. They just kill them. So yes, I fight dirty. I fight mean. I fight to win. Because losing means death for people who trusted me to keep them alive. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Sektar spoke. I move that we officially recognize Commander Jiwoo Park by the call sign Sunblade, and grant her command of a new Special Operations Division. One that operates outside standard coalition tactics. One that fights to win. Seconded, said the Quiller delegate. The vote took hours. The old species argued for tradition. The younger ones argued for survival. In the end, survival won. Barely. Jiwoo left the chamber with a new rank, a new division, and a code name that would follow her forever. Sunblade, something that couldn't be held. Something that burned. Something that revealed truth. That night, she sat alone in her quarters. She thought about the name. Thought about what it meant. She wasn't a hero. Heroes fought with honor and won through courage. She was something different. Something necessary. Something sharp. A message appeared on her datapad. From Calthor, still in his cell. You earned that name, human. My people will fear it. But no, this fear makes warriors desperate. And desperate warriors are dangerous. The blood mark stands. They will come for you. Not for honor. Not for victory. For revenge. Sleep lightly, Sunblade. Wu read the message 3 times. Then she deleted it and began preparing for the next battle, because Calthor was right. They would come. And when they did, she would be ready. The codename was official now. The legend was beginning, and the galaxy was learning what humans had always known, that the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. And in those shadows, teeth were waiting. The Scar Legion arrived in coalition space like a plague. They weren't soldiers. They were zealots. Each warrior had carved the symbol for revenge into their scales. Each one had sworn a blood oath to kill Sunblade or die in the attempt. War Master Shekener led them. He was Calthor's brother, and he blamed Jiwoo for his family's shame. His war wasn't about territory or resources. It was personal. The first attack hit Colony 7, where Jiwoo's parents had retired. She got the message during a routine patrol. The colony was burning. 300 dead. The Scar Legion had carved her call sign into the colony's main plaza. Imbada's Hyenki found her in the observation deck. Staring at nothing? Your parents? He asked quietly. Safe. They were visiting friends on the northern continent. Her voice was flat, empty. 300 others weren't. This is different from before, Hyenki said. This isn't war. It's murder. War always was murder, Jiwoo said. We just pretended it was something noble. The second attack destroyed a medical ship. The UHMS Mercy had been named after Jiwoo's first victory at the mining colony. It carried no weapons, only doctors and supplies. The Scar Legion killed everyone aboard. 247 medical personnel gone. Jiwoo studied the attack reports. She didn't cry, didn't rage. She went cold, analytical, every emotion locked away behind calculation and planning. Dapor noticed the change. Commander, you need to rest. I need to work. You're scaring the crew? Jiwoo finally looked at her. Good, they should be scared. The enemy is. The third attack was worse. The Scar Legion ambushed a supply convoy and captured one of the ships. On board was Taeyang, Jiwoo's friend from the academy. The Vrask broadcast his capture across all channels. Sunblade, Shikaner's voice echoed through the bridge. You have taken my brother's honor? I will take everything you love. Come to the dead zone, alone, 48 hours. Or your friend dies slowly. The dead zone was a region of space filled with ancient spatial anomalies. Sensors didn't work. Shields flickered. It was the perfect place for a trap. You can't go, Heinke said. It's suicide. He has Taeyang. He has bait. And you're too smart to take it. Jiwoo pulled up star charts of the dead zone. She studied the anomalies, their patterns, their effects on different technologies. She worked for 18 hours straight, ignoring food, ignoring sleep. Sung-ho blocked her path to the strategy room. We're not letting you go alone. This isn't a democracy, Lieutenant. No, it's a team. Beora appeared behind her. And we don't abandon family. Yuna stepped forward with a datapad. I analyzed the broadcast. Shekaner was standing in front of a spatial signature that matches only 3 locations in the dead zone. He thinks he's being clever, but he gave away his position. And that's not all, Sung-ho added. I counted reflection patterns in his armor. There are at least 50 warriors hidden in the background. This isn't a duel. It's an ambush. Yuwu looked at her team. They were volunteering to walk into a death trap for her, for Taeyang. Because that's what humans did. They fought for each other even when it was stupid. Especially when it was stupid. You're all idiots, she said. Learn from the best, Ra replied with a grin. They planned for 30 hours. Guru devised her most dangerous strategy yet. She would go to the dead zone, but not as prey. She would turn the Vrask trap into a killing field. The spatial anomalies that made the dead zone dangerous could also make it deadly. For the right target, the anomalies are unstable, Jiwoo explained to her team. They can be triggered with the right energy signature. We plant modified warheads throughout the zone, disguised as space debris. When I give the signal, we detonate them. The anomalies will cascade, creating a field of unpredictable distortions. That will kill everyone in the zone, Yuna said. Including you. Not if we position our ships outside the cascade radius and I use a heavily shielded fighter. The Vrask will be inside, surrounded by anomalies. We'll be outside, controlling them. Hyenki studied the plan. It was insane. It was also brilliant. You're betting that Shekaner wants to kill you personally. That he won't just shoot you on arrival. He wants glory, Jiwoo said. He wants his warriors to see him defeat Sunblade in combat. His pride is his weakness. They spent the next day seeding the dead zone with warheads. Sung-ho flew each mission personally, dodging anomalies and Vrask patrols. Ryora modified each charge to trigger specific types of spatial distortions. Yuna mapped every enemy position. When the 48 hours were up, Jiwoo launched in a single fighter. She flew toward the dead zone alone, exactly as Shekaner demanded. The Vrask broadcast her approach across their empire. This was their moment. The legendary Sunblade, finally vulnerable. Finally caught. Jiwoo entered the dead zone. Anomalies warped her shields, distorted her sensors. She flew on instinct and calculation, threading through spatial tiers that could crush her ship like paper. Shekaner waited in the center, surrounded by 50 Scar Legion warriors. They stood on the hull of their captured ship, weapons ready. Taeyang was bound nearby, beaten but alive. Sunblade, Shekaner boomed. You came alone like a warrior. Jiwoo landed her fighter and stepped out. She wore no armor, carried only a combat knife. She looked small compared to the massive Vrask warriors. I came for my friend, she said. You came to die, Shekaner corrected. Your legend ends here. My brother's shame ends here. And the Vrask Empire shows the galaxy what happens to humans who dare to defy us. One question, Uwu said. Do you know why humans call this place the Dead Zone? Shekaner laughed. Because ships die here. Because the anomalies are deadly. No, Uwu smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Because we seeded it with mines 2 days ago. And you've been standing in a trap the entire time. His eyes widened. Wu activated her communicator. Suho? Light them up. The warheads detonated throughout the dead zone. Stable anomalies became unstable. Space itself seemed to tear. Gravity wells appeared and vanished. Time dilations flickered. The laws of physics became suggestions. The Scar Legion ships tried to escape, but the cascading anomalies were everywhere. One ship vanished into a spatial fold. Another was crushed by sudden gravitational pressure. Warriors screamed as their vessels tore apart. Shekinah roared and charged at Giwu. She didn't run. She met him head-on. The fight was brutal. He was stronger, larger, bred for war. But Jiwoo had studied Vrask combat techniques for months. She knew their patterns, their instincts, their weaknesses. She dodged his strikes and targeted his joints. Used his momentum against him. Made him work for every inch. Around them, the dead zone became hell. But Jiwoo's team had positioned their ships perfectly. They controlled the chaos, directed it, weaponized it. Finally, Jiwoo found her opening. She drove her knife through a gap in Shekinah's armor, deep into his primary lung. He collapsed, gasping. You fight without honor, he wheezed. I fight to win, Jiwoo said. She pulled her knife free. And I fight to save my people. Remember that when you report to your high command. She didn't kill him. That mercy was worse than death for a warrior. She rescued Taeyang, extracted what remained of the Scar Legion's survivors, and left Shekinah alive to face his failure. Later, on her ship, Taeyang asked her why she spared him. Because dead enemies become martyrs, Jiwoo said. But defeated enemies become lessons. Shekinah will tell the Vrask what happened here. And they'll learn what humans have always known. What's that? That we don't fight fair. We fight to survive. And we're very, very good at it. The Vrask High Command gathered in their war chamber. 12 war dukes, the most powerful warriors in the Empire, sat around a table carved from the bones of conquered enemies. They had ruled through strength for 10,000 years. Today, they were discussing surrender. The Scar Legion failed, War Duke Mektar said. His voice carried shame. 50 of our best warriors gone, defeated by one human and her tricks. Not tricks, another corrected. Strategy. We keep calling it tricks because we don't want to admit the truth. They fight better than we do. Impossible, Mektar snarled. We are warriors. They're soft, weak. Shekinah limped into the chamber, his body covered in scars from the dead zone. I fought Sunblade myself. She is not weak. She is something worse. She is unpredictable. We train for 10,000 scenarios. She invents the 10,001st. The war dukes were silent. Defeat was supposed to mean death. But Shekinah lived, and his survival was a greater punishment than any execution. He had to wear his failure forever. We can send more warriors, Mektar suggested. To what end? Shekinah asked. We've sent fleets. She burned them. We've sent assassins. She captured them. We sent our best legion. She turned our trap into our tomb. Every time we think we understand how humans fight, they change. Every time we think we have them cornered, they reveal another weapon we didn't know existed. Then what do you suggest? Mektar demanded. Shekinah looked around the chamber at the Empire's greatest warriors. I suggest we stop fighting a war we cannot win. Not because we lack courage, because we lack understanding. You cannot defeat an enemy you cannot predict. You would have us surrender to humans? Mektar's voice dripped with disgust. I would have us survive, Shekinah said. Because if we continue this war, there is only one ending. And it is not victory. 3 months later, the Vrask Empire requested a ceasefire. The coalition was shocked. The Vrask had never surrendered to anyone. Never asked for peace. Never admitted weakness. But they did now. The peace summit was held on Station Meridian 7, where Jiwoo's story had begun 2 years earlier. Delegates from both sides gathered to sign the treaty. The Vrask delegation was massive, covered in ceremonial armor, radiating barely controlled aggression. Ji Woo stood with the coalition representatives. She wore her uniform, her sunblade insignia displayed prominently. She was 28 years old and had already changed the course of galactic history. Shikana approached her during the reception. His eyes still burned with hatred, but something else lurked there too. Respect, maybe. Or fear. You won, he said simply. We both survived, Wu corrected. That's better. My people do not forgive. They do not forget. The blood mark still exists. Let it exist, Wu said calmly. It didn't stop me before. It won't stop me now. Shekiner studied her face. You are not what I expected. I thought you would be cruel, arrogant, but you are just tired. War makes everyone tired, Wu said. Even the winners. Do you regret it? The deaths? The destruction? Jiwoo looked out the viewport at the stars. Every single one. But I don't regret saving the people I could save. I don't regret protecting civilians your warriors would have killed. I don't regret doing what was necessary. You are a strange species, Shikaner said. You talk of peace but wage war better than anyone. We talk of peace because we remember war, Jiwoo said. Earth tore itself apart before we reached the stars. We killed each other over resources, ideology, pride. We learned what war costs, what it takes, what it leaves behind. That's why we fight so hard to protect peace, because we know what happens when it fails. The treaty was signed that evening. The war was over. The Vrask would pay reparations, open trade routes, and recognize coalition borders. In exchange, the coalition would not invade Vrask space or demand further concessions. It wasn't justice, but it was survival. And sometimes that was enough. 5 years later, Commander Jiwoo Sunblade Park stood at the front of a classroom at the Coalition War Academy. Her students were young officers from a dozen species. Human, Quiller, Nexium, even 2 Vrask, all learning the new way of war. Lesson 1, Jiwoo said. Forget everything you know about honor. A Quiller cadet raised his hand. But honor is what separates us from animals. No, Wu corrected. Protecting those who can't protect themselves is what separates us from animals. Honor is what we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. It's important, but it's not more important than lives. She pulled up a tactical display. I'm going to teach you how humans learn to fight. Not with bigger weapons or stronger shields. With adaptability. With creativity. With the understanding that every rule can be broken if the alternative is losing people you care about. The students leaned forward. They had heard the stories. Sunblade, the human who defeated the Vrask Empire. The officer who burned a nebula, trapped a legion, and forced an entire civilization to beg for peace, but the person teaching them wasn't a monster. She was just someone who had made hard choices and lived with the consequences. You're going to learn tactics that other species call dishonorable, Wu continued. Ambush, deceptions, using the environment as a weapon. You'll learn to fight without pride because pride gets people killed. You'll learn to fight without mercy because mercy toward enemies can mean death for friends. A human cadet raised her hand. Commander, do you ever regret the things you did in the war? Wu paused. It was the question everyone wanted to ask but rarely did. Every day, she said honestly, I regret every death, every burned ship, every warrior I killed. But I don't regret saving the people those actions protected. The miners on that first colony, the civilians in the convoys, the colonies that would have burned if the war continued. I carry the weight of my choices. That's the price of command. The classroom was silent. But here's what I want you to remember, Jiwoo said. The reason I could fight that way wasn't because I was brave or clever. It's because I knew what I was fighting for. Not glory. Not honor. Not even victory. I fought to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. That gave me clarity when everyone else was confused. That gave me strength when I wanted to quit. Her communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Hyan-Ki. Commander, we have a situation. New hostile force on the rim. They're hitting outer colonies. We need your expertise. Ji Wu looked at her students, young, idealistic, not yet worn down by the reality of war. Class dismissed, she said. Study chapters 12 through 15. We'll discuss ambush tactics next session. As the students filed out, Bo-Ra appeared in the doorway. Behind her were Seung-ho and Yuna, the old team, back together. Heard you got the call? Bo-Ra said. Guess retirement didn't last long. It lasted 5 years? Uwu replied. That's pretty good for us. They walked through the academy halls toward the hangar. Students whispered as they passed. Sunblade and her team. Legends walking among them. Think it'll be like the Vrask? Seung-ho asked. Doesn't matter, Uwu said. We'll adapt. That's what humans do. They boarded their ship. The same one they'd fought in during the war, refitted and upgraded, but still carrying scars from old battles. As they launched toward the rim, Jiwoo looked back at the academy, new officers learning human tactics. A galaxy that had learned to respect Earth not for its strength but for its adaptability. And somewhere in Vrask space, warriors still told stories about Sunblade, the human who couldn't be caught, who burned like light, who revealed all hidden things. The codename had started as an insult. A threat, but it became something else. A promise. That humanity would never stop fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. That humans would never accept defeat when survival was possible. That the species who had clawed its way from caves to stars would never, ever stop adapting. They jumped to faster-than-light speed. New threats waited. New battles. New impossible victories to achieve. But Jiwoo wasn't worried. Because she had learned the most important lesson of all. Wars weren't won by the strongest or the bravest. They were won by those who refused to stop learning. Who treated every defeat as a lesson and every victory as a beginning. Who understood that survival meant never, ever fighting the same way twice. The galaxy had learned to fear the name Sunblade, and they would never forget why.